listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hello, and welcome back to the Becoming More Me podcast. I'm Teresa Lear Levine, and today I have Sarah Meyer, actually Dr. Sarah Meyer, with us to talk. And I'm really excited about this. I had the privilege of going on Sarah's show. It's called Embrace.Live.Thrive last month, and we had an excellent conversation. So it seemed natural with our similar interests and perspectives on the ways that people, especially moms, become more of who they're intended to be in this world, to have her here on Becoming More Me. So let me just tell you a little bit about Sarah, and then I will let her do the rest. So her big thing is that she's working to destigmatize mental health issues in motherhood and educate women on foundations of self-care. These are really big things. And her podcast helps with that. She also has online support groups, and she's determined to kind of create that safe space for women to come and know that it's okay to not be okay. And it's safe, and let's not stay in that place. So Sarah's passionate about serving her community, talking about the hard issues, and helping women know they're not alone. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to talk to you and just kind of share about kind of things that are on my heart and that I'm very passionate about in serving women and helping them understand that it's absolutely okay to struggle with depression and anxiety. And actually, most people do.
Yeah.
And that talking about it isn't weakness. It's actually just admitting humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we dive into all those deep things that I know we're going to get into, tell us a little bit about you, your family, where you live, what you like to do, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I graduated in 2011 with my doctorate in physical therapy and was completely content to work full time. And so it came as much a shock to me when we started having children that my husband and I both felt like I was being kind of called to stay home with them and become a stay-at-home mom, which was never in the plan. So I did that and really struggled with my identity, struggled with depression and anxiety, doing something that I had never really been passionate about doing. And it really took a major shift in life journey to understand that I had a history of depression and anxiety, but I had been able to manage it. And now that I had children, I was no longer able to manage it on my own. And I was able to walk through that journey and found health. And that's kind of why I have such a calling to help mamas with that. But all that being said, part of the contributing factor is I had a lot of children very quickly. I have 5 children. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old. So we stay very, very busy.
Yes, you do.
And then I've been married to my husband for 16 years. We waited just a little bit to start a family till I was done with my doctorate. And today we live in St. Louis, Missouri, and we are just really trying to focus on being intentional, raising our children, and just enjoying one another.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And your kids are like, you have a lot of kids in that short span of time. And it's no wonder that would kind of exacerbate something like depression or anxiety that's kind of underneath the surface. And then when you start kind of running out of having the time and space that you're used to having before kids, and it gets so much harder to manage. So that's amazing that you were able to be conscious of that. And how did you kind of start working your way out of that?
So it really was fascinating to me in hindsight, being able to reflect, when you're in the middle of depression and anxiety, you have no ability to actually reflect. But it was a spiral down, and especially being educated, I knew the signs of depression. I knew the signs of anxiety, and I completely missed it on myself. And it was when I was trying to do everything I could to get back on track. And so one morning I was running And I enjoy running. I'm a very active person. I enjoy being basically anything that makes you sweat. I enjoy doing. And what was going on, it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm trying to run and I continued to get more upset and more upset and more upset and literally broke down on the side of the road crying one day. And that was like a light bulb moment for me. Like if I am only getting more upset while I'm doing something that I know I love, something's wrong. So I had convinced myself, I have a thyroid condition. I was convinced myself that it was my thyroid. So I went to the doctor, had him check my thyroid, and it wasn't. And it was in that space that the doctor's like, I think you probably are struggling with some depression. And it was like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So in that moment, we started on some anxiety medication and I started some counseling. And it was really kind of those first steps in starting my health journey. It took many, many more steps before I was able to really come through it and be equipped to manage it. But that was my starting point, was that moment of clarity when I was doing something I know I enjoy and I know I'm passionate about, and I couldn't even find joy in that.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely an eye-opening type
Mhm.
of thing, a place to find it. And did you feel yourself that you were stigmatized in that
Oh,
process?
yeah. Oh, I had convinced myself that I was a bad mom. I was a bad Christian. The fact that I couldn't just pray my way through anxiety, the fact that I couldn't just be available for my kids all the time, and that it felt hard to feed them. Felt hard to make sure they were dressed. Bathing them was absolutely exhausting because they were all little and needed complete care when it came to bathing and feeding and grooming. Um, and it felt just like this weight
Hmm.
that I was alone. Nobody knew what I was experiencing. I didn't know how to ask for help because I have always been the motivated, capable planner organizer. And so admitting that I was struggling was admitting that I couldn't do everything myself. And
So it
that
was a
felt like,
lot of self-stigma.
yeah,
And
it was a lot of self-shame.
did
Mm-hmm.
you feel it from any outward sources that like there was any kind of disgrace or anything about going through
I
typical
don't know if I
depression?
did so much from an external source because I had internalized so much of it that I wasn't even able to talk about what was going on.
Okay.
And that's part of what I try to educate women on, is the ability to just talk sometimes helps you with clarity, because
Yeah.
people love you and want to help you. But if you don't ask, nobody knows how to help you. And
Right.
sometimes, even like I said, I didn't even know how to ask. Starting some sort of conversation would have helped.
Yeah.
But really it was driven internally in hindsight.
Right. Yeah. Which, there's no, it's interesting because we have that self stigma, but then it's like, well, where did we get that thought or that
Oh yeah.
belief or whatever? Like at some
Mm-hmm.
point, something has to have happened or been
Yeah.
conveyed or modeled or
Mm-hmm.
just seen that would say it's not okay to be this way. And
Yeah.
then that self stigma really kind of comes to the surface. But
Yeah.
it's always an interesting thing to try to untangle.
Yeah.
And so what ways of coping with it did you find the most helpful?
One of the most important things that I have found to help me cope it is understanding my spirituality, and believing that God walks us through hard things for a purpose and for a reason, to be able to lift others up. And so that is a big coping mechanism for me. I struggle with panic attacks. I
Okay.
still do. So medication is something that is still helpful for me. Um, and that's another conversation I really like to have with women is, there's nothing wrong with medication. There's nothing
Sure.
wrong with taking it. And sometimes what it can do is it can help take that edge off to help you actually dive into what's actually going on. But it's helpful for me to stay consistent on that. But again, another big thing that's really beneficial coping wise for me is making sure that I'm maintaining a healthy diet and staying active physically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
100%.
what you eat is how you feel.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it literally becomes who you
this
are.
is a whole nother podcast, but gut health is super important as well. Having, mhm,
I was just saying it literally becomes who you are. What
it
you
does.
eat becomes the cells
Mhm.
of your body, and you take on everything from,
Yes.
what the food went through if it was alive at one point, and
Yeah.
everything else. It's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. I remember I taught a lot about that when my focus used to be mainly on nutrition and fitness when I
Hmm.
did coaching.
Yeah.
And it always it's the same thing with energy work these days. It always surprises, energy
Hmm.
is everything, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, really? Like, it blows people's minds that this really like simple
Yeah.
idea is so prominent. And then it's the same thing with food. It's like, well, what did you think was going to happen when you put that thing
Yeah.
in your body? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and it doesn't mean, me being able to say that doesn't mean that I eat perfectly or that my diet's like
No.
always amazing, but
Oh,
I can at
absolutely
least
not.
connect the dots a little easier
Yeah.
when I haven't
It's
been eating well.
it's about balance, and it's understanding how your body reacts. And I talked to a gal one time and she said this, and I love this. It's eating the foods you love, but that love you back.
Right.
So you may love cheese. You may love cheese. However, it may not love you back. And so
Yeah.
that's something that you can reflect on and like have in moderation. It's not that you can never ever eat cheese again, but maybe not multiple servings all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so it's really about finding that balance of understanding, okay, well, I had that piece of cake today. So maybe today I'm not going to have a dessert, and really just give and take.
Right. I totally agree with what you're saying about the medications too. And I know
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
can be, I think, a really hard hitting area of self stigma for people
Mm-hmm.
is medication or not to medicate. And I always feel like something important to think about there is just that, life is always changing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you might need anxiety medication now because the kids are so young, things are
Yeah.
so crazy, and it's
Right.
more than almost anyone can handle with a rational, logical sense about them.
Yeah.
But in a few years, you might be able to handle and show up in a completely different way.
Absolutely.
And I don't see any harm in getting through that in an easier
Mm-hmm.
way if there's one that's available. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think that more women, can explore that without feeling bad about it, or like they're
Absolutely.
somehow less than because they're
Mm-hmm.
medicating versus able to take care of it in some other way.
Yeah.
There's no
And
shame.
you also have to understand there are different drivers to depression. Sometimes it's hormonal, sometimes it's chemical, sometimes it's nutritional. And so if you are truly struggling with a either hormonal or chemical depression, you may need a supplement. You may need some medication to provide something that your body is not providing for itself. And so just keeping that in kind of awareness can help you reflect like, yes, I need this medication, but it's because I'm supporting my body, not because I'm trying to harm my body.
Right. That's a very important point. I like that a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
you talk about the drivers there, and you also, I've talked about different drivers for other things in our life, like
Mm-hmm.
our purpose and our
Mm-hmm.
passion and things like
Absolutely.
that. So, how do you think women could better understand their identity as a driver of that?
Yeah. I think identity is one of the most important things to being able to start your health journey. And this is why we as women, we as individuals tend to be caregivers and want to take care of everyone around us. And when we do that, it's noble and it's a beautiful thing. However, we take on these roles. So we take on the role of motherhood. We take on the role of spouse. We might take on the role of caregiver, and those become our identity. But we know that this world is changing. We know that things come and go. And so when we take on roles as our identity, when those things change, we feel attacked because that's who we are. So if a child makes a choice that we don't agree with or aren't excited about, it becomes a personal attack because that's who we are. That's what we've done our entire, motherhood role. And I really think there has to be distinctions of understanding that these roles are valuable and so important, but they're not who we are.
No,
So
not
our
at all.
identity has to be based on something that is foundational and unchanging. And what in this world is foundational and unchanging?
I have
It's
an
what we
answer.
believe. What is it? What is it, Teresa? What is
Love.
found? Yes.
We are love.
In
That's what the only thing I choose to
yeah,
identify with that I can know is true.
yeah. And I would argue it goes even deeper as a part of love, because a love is what you believe. That is your spiritual identity. It's what drives your passion and what drives your purpose. And so identity has to be based on something that is foundational and unchanging. And that is what you believe spiritually. Whatever that is, you have to define it for yourself and understand it, not because that's how you were raised, not because your best friend believes it. You have to embrace it and understand it for yourself. And in those moments of clarity, when you take that time to realize your identity, you absolutely are going to find your passion and purpose out of that identity.
Yeah, definitely. It can be difficult when people get confused with the roles, with
It is.
who they
It's
deeply are on a much
yeah.
greater level, for
And
sure.
roles are absolutely a part of who we are, but they're not who we are.
Yeah,
Distinction.
they're how we're humaning, but they're they're
Exactly.
not how we be,
Yeah.
you
It's an
know?
expression of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you believe that we drive that purpose and passion? Like, how do we figure that out?
I it goes back to some it's a simple concept for me, I think. Now, in functionality, it becomes harder, but it goes back to what are things that you love? What are things that you enjoy? I truly believe that purpose is driven out of things that you already have a natural inclination to do. Do you love cooking? Okay, you can serve your family by cooking healthy meals. You can serve your friends and family by having them over for a meal. Who doesn't appreciate going over to somebody's house for a meal that you don't necessarily have to cook and clean up after? Do you love gardening? Are you able to not only provide joy from your neighbors when you take care of your yard, but are you able to help other individuals manage their yards and well, or as well? And so I really think that when you take those moments back and understand who you are and what you love and enjoy doing, you can drive your purpose through that and understand what your passions are and how you can serve. I think when we say the word purpose, people want to think that it has to be this big, huge, life changing, world altering thing. But really, purpose can be taking care and serving the people that are in our circle and who are around us day in and day out. And that purpose leaves a legacy. Serving those people leaves a legacy that is greater than anything, any one world changing event.
Absolutely. Do you have any specific hopes or dreams for the legacy that you want to leave?
Absolutely. I often think about, because that's just who I am. I'm all about reflection right now.
Mhm.
What I want my children to take away from my life, what I want people to look on my life, and the legacy that I want to leave is I want to be that someone that deeply empathized, that truly cared, that worked hard and served those around me. And I have a variety of ways that I want to do that. But those are the core things that I want to leave behind, to know that I put myself out there because I want other people to know that it's okay to be hurting, but let's not stay there and let's find what you need to move forward.
Yeah, that's great. How do you feel like your spirituality has evolved in adulthood and since
Oh my
having
gosh.
kids?
Um, Night and day. I am the
Me too.
classic child that grew up in a church and believed what my parents believed or followed what my parents believed because that's just what you did. That's how I was raised. And really coming into adulthood, I feel like I had defining moments that pushed my faith, my spirituality forward. Having children, going through a season of deep depression and anxiety where taking my life seemed to be on the table.
Mm.
Irrational. In the moment, it wasn't. And then being able to start a platform to help women who are struggling with similar issues. All of those have really pushed me forward in my faith and understand that it goes past just saying good words or thinking nice things. That true empathy is sitting with someone who is hurting and just being.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not words. There are some hard things in this life, and there are not words that can be said, but I can still be there and be a support. Understanding that kindness to others, or demonstrating kindness, sharing kindness, has to start with me. It has to start with my words. It has to start with my actions. It has to be something that I work on continually, because we all have bad moments.
Sure.
We all have hard moments. I like to tell women, who hasn't accidentally cut somebody off on the highway because we were distracted by a kid, or we're just distracted by a life circumstance. So when someone cuts me off on the highway, I now choose to think, okay, you know what? I bet they're struggling with something, then just be angry that they almost cut me off. Now, that's a growth mindset. You may not be there to start with, but that's what I choose, because I'm taking the time to continue to understand that if I want this world to be more kind, I have to be more kind first.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I just had situations like that the other day. And also like just, when we're all offended by those kind of situations, it's really just the ego. And it's not, it's coming from a place of us feeling like we're somehow, I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's just all ego. But my son was driving the other day and we were leaving a parking lot, and he's a new driver. And so he's very cautious. He wants to make sure he gets it right. But it was a woman coming out the other direction, and she was making a left turn, and we were coming from her right, and she didn't, look at all. And she just went, cut us off. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
But in the moments that followed that, as we were exiting the parking lot together, she gave, the wave out the window. I said, I'm like, the wave. I'm like, that just makes it all better. Like, more people need to just do the wave. That kind of like, that they know, like, didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I'm human. And I just waved back. I'm like, it's okay, love. Just keep driving. You know?
Maybe pay a wee bit more attention.
Yes. But I would have answered it with that, whether or not she had waved. But I was trying to show my son, like, do the wave.
Absolutely.
Like, be a waver.
Right. I truly believe children learn the most about character through observation. So Absolutely. If we expect them to show kindness, to understand empathy, we have to demonstrate it first, because they follow what we do, not what we say.
Do you have any good stories about ways that you've seen it show up in your kids?
Oh goodness. As a funny story, I always like to people appreciate when you notice things about them in a kind way. So if I notice something about somebody, I always try and verbalize it. Your hair looks really nice. I love your earrings. You look super cute today. Because when other people feel good, it spreads, And so we were at haircuts yesterday, and my hairdresser had her daughter with us, or with her as well. And my son, while I'm managing my other children, my son's getting his haircut, my 8-year-old, and he tells her, that is definitely your child. She looks exactly like you. And the hairdresser, she's like, it made my day. And so being observant of what's going on around you and then verbalizing it is something, like I said, I try to be very intentional to do. So it was amusing to see my oldest son doing that as well.
Yes, I feel the same when I see that, or the style of compliments they give is kind of similar to the style that you give. And
absolutely.
I love it too when I catch, especially my littlest one, catching himself in being more conscious in moments. Like the other day, he was throwing a tantrum, and he realized in that moment, he's like, just really grumpy right now, but I'm going to choose something else right now, because this isn't any fun.
I love it so much.
It's like, it's not. I'm just start over.
Yeah.
I was like, good.
often try to explain to my children, like, when you sit in tantrum and you pout, you're making yourself miserable.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to sit in that. We can use words. We can talk
Right.
through your feelings. Like, all of that is a much more productive way of handling our upset feelings than just sitting and being stressed.
Oh, kids get, I mean, we can too as adults, but kids can get like
yeah.
so stubbornly committed to that
Yeah.
emotion that they've chosen to, like, you know, have the temper tantrum about, or to sulk about, or whatever else, that deciding differently feels like a betrayal of self or something.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's pretty cool when they realize, like, oh, hey, I don't have to sit with this emotion that's no fun, that I'm not enjoying anymore 20 minutes later, you know. I can just actually choose to, like, move on with my day and be like, okay, mom, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine with
Well,
me.
children, in this is a developmental thing. Children are naturally very egotistical. And I don't mean that in a negative or wrong way, because it's the developmental process. But what that means is how they process things, everything revolves around them. So you will see when children experience a trauma, and that can be a host of things that cause trauma, but often they will internalize it as it was their fault, because their world revolves around them at that moment. And again, in, you know, the tantrums and when they're stressed or are frustrated when they don't get their way, it's that ego where everything revolves around me. And so validating those emotions, but kind of walking them through understanding how to process those, is such an important thing as a parent, but such a difficult thing about being a parent. Like, the consistency of that some days is exhausting.
Yes. We have a hard enough time sometimes walking ourselves through it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%
sure.
true.
So what are some of the ways that you are actively working on the process of becoming more me for yourself? Like, you know, other words, like, you know, becoming the person that you want to show up as in the world now. Like, what are some of your favorite ways to do that?
Yeah. I love reading. And I always tease that pre-children feels like a lifetime ago, like a different lifetime. So reading is a difficult thing to fit in at this moment, but I enjoy reading like professional development books. I'm currently reading the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. So good. Very fascinating understanding.
I listened to that one. I have 4 kids. I'm, you know, not.
Oh, I actually 100% agree. When I say reading, that's what I mean.
That's what I mean when I say reading too. I honestly, I read one book recently because it wasn't offered in any audio format. Believe me, I like looked around, like, how can I have this book read to me? Like, some of those, they have like apps out there that will read you regular books, but
just
the voice,
hold your phone over it.
It's awful. It's not a good experience. It's a very like not fluid voice. I like a good reading voice when I'm listening to a book. So I did actually read it. It took me, it wasn't even like, I mean, it was a couple hundred pages. It took me weeks to get through it. Like, if it had been on audio, I would have been done in a day. Would have been done in a day. It wouldn't have been a problem. I would have been listening to it while I carpool. I would have been listening to it while I did dishes or laundry or prepped meals. Would have been done. I go through 3 or 4 books a week most weeks, because I'm always listening to something to learn and grow. But that's when I say read, I mean listen. I'm an Audible junkie.
100%. Yep, that's how I function as well. That's like a mom hack right there.
Yes,
like for sure. Cleaning, driving, carpooling, all the things. But the most important thing that I do to push myself forward into becoming me is my quiet time in the mornings. Making sure that I have time. So it's worth it to me. I get up most days between 5 and 5:30 in the morning before my children, because I know I'm a better person when I have my quiet time. And I can focus on my scripture reading. I can focus on my prayer journaling. I have time to just be still and set my mind frame for the day. So I can focus on, okay, hey, we have a really busy day today. So we're going to have a little less time to breathe. Or, you know, I can reflect on, I know this is going to be a very hard moment, and this is how I think I might handle it. We all know that you get in the moments and it may not actually happen that way, but I can at least prepare for it when I know that it's coming. So that is the most
value
important
and a power to visualizing something and working
visualization
on that level. Even if
There's
it doesn't
such,
turn out quite that way. I mean, you can
yeah,
visualize it and then you can hand it over to the universe, God, whatever
yeah,
powers might be, and
yeah,
allow them to rearrange it in whatever way is going to be for the highest good of all. And it feels better to do that.
yeah, yeah. I 100%. Yeah. It's exactly spot on.
So yeah, the quiet time, and yeah, that's the
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I would do without that, honestly, in the
Yep.
morning. I'm like you, I'm normally up between like 4:30 and 5 most mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And on those rare mornings that my kids wake up before I do,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as pleasant.
It's a hard day. It's a hard day. Like
I realize consciously that that's a choice. Like I could choose a
Mhm.
different feeling when I'm sleeping and they come wake me up, but it's pretty much like ugh, I just lost my
Yeah.
morning. You know,
Yes,
it's like I lost all
that's
that
exactly
productive
it.
time. Could have gotten my feet underneath of me in a much better way. And instead
Uh-huh.
I'm here in bed. But that does not
Mm-hmm.
happen often. I'm usually it goes hand in hand with me being sick or, having
Yes.
stayed up too late the night before, which also I'm really good about that not happening too much either, because I value my sleep and my mornings so much. Like I would rather
Yeah.
have an early morning than a late night.
Yeah.
And I can't stay
I'm
awake for a late night anyway.
the exact same way. I, as a student, never pulled all-nighters, like never. But I'd get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and
Yeah.
like study right up until class time.
Yeah. See, I couldn't do it when I was younger. That was not
Uh-huh.
my jam then. I would have stayed up all night. In
That's
fact, up
funny.
until I had a couple of kids, I would stay up
Uh-huh.
later. It wasn't until the kids started to outnumber my husband and I that I was
Funny.
like, I need to get up earlier. Like we can't handle this alone here. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to need to suffer through those, what was like probably a couple of weeks of the alarm going off earlier. And gosh,
Uh-huh.
even then it was probably only like 5:30 or 6 maybe.
Yeah.
And me being like, oh, I need
Uh-huh.
coffee. Like, I don't even need coffee. I wake up, I'm happy. I love life. I'm, right into my day. Not a problem anymore. But there's a little bit of a learning curve for anybody that, and a little bit of a struggle to get over if you are somebody who's contemplating shifting into the early morning space and you're
Yeah.
not there yet. So just, it's okay. I utilize, that Mel Robbins 5-second rule a bit
Uh-huh.
during that time, and just kind of like the alarm went off. I'm like, nope, not hitting snooze. Just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Yeah.
feet on the ground, start the day. Just go, go, go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make it happen.
It's about making realistic expectations. So if you are
Yes.
not a morning person or you haven't had a morning routine, getting up at 5 o'clock and expecting a 45-minute routine is unrealistic. But if your kids get up at 7, if you can get up at 6:30, if you can get up at 6:45 and start with 5 minutes, and when that feels natural and good, you can increase it a little bit and you can increase it a little bit. But really having realistic expectations is going to help you be more successful as you're trying to do some of these like health life shifts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I found,
Mhm.
with life as busy as it is with kids and everything else, like I love podcasting. I love this time with people like
Mhm.
you that,
Yeah.
I don't really have the time to just like hang out and have coffee with friends anymore,
Yep.
or go meet somebody for lunch or what have you,
Mhm.
because I'm trying to like run a couple businesses, raise my kids, have some quality
Right.
time with my family, all of
Mhm.
these other things. So as time gets more valuable, I love this way to connect, to meet new
Yes.
people, to make new friends, to also be, helping my business and the business of others who I get
Mhm.
to speak with at the same
Yeah.
time. There's like such a multi-purposeness to podcasting. And it
Uh-huh.
feels like, having coffee with a friend and just, hanging out and talking about the things that are meaningful to us, and not
Yes.
having to honor all the small talk that I never want to do anyway.
Yeah. Can I
So
tell you, the older I get, the more I value true connection, which is based on vulnerability,
yeah.
empathy, and communication. And if those aren't in a relationship, I don't have time for it
Yeah,
anymore. Like
for
I
sure.
can't do the soft chit chatty connections
It
anymore.
drives me bonkers.
I don't have time.
I mean,
So if we're
obviously
not
there's a
going to
certain
connect
amount
on
of
a
that
real
that we have to
level,
do to kind of get to that next step. But I'm the kind of person, I can meet somebody, I can feel
oh
their energy, and I'm just like, okay, so to dive in, tell me what's going on.
yeah,
Like,
what's
let's
really
talk.
happening?
Yeah. Like you don't have to sugarcoat it.
Uh-huh.
But and I love that kind of connection. So,
Uh-huh.
and it values both people's time, but
Mm-hmm.
it probably has me come off like I'm a little blunt and insensitive sometimes too. And for that, I kind of apologize, but
yeah, but
not really.
that attracts your people.
Yeah.
So, and such an important concept to understand is not everybody is your people.
Nope.
So you have to be you, and you will attract your people.
Yeah, I always say I'm just letting my weird light shine.
Yeah,
It'll
done.
attract the things that are attracted to this kind of light, and
absolutely.
I don't have time for the other stuff anyway. So.
Nope.
It's all good. So with do you use your physical therapy studies and things in your work these days?
I don't yet. I have long-term plans of incorporating that back into my platform, into my business. I do more just friend help and things like that.
So what is your main business these days?
So
other than,
business,
I know you've got your podcast, Embrace.Live.Thrive. How else are you supporting all these women who mental health and purpose and passion you're so interested in nurturing?
Yeah. So I love being in speaking roles. So I've had the opportunity to put on a health conference. I have the opportunity to do a couple of workshops where I'm educating in a community atmosphere. Nice. But my next big thing that is rolling out here shortly, if not already by the time this conversation airs, is an online support group. So my goal is to create a space, a virtual space for women to come and be able to connect over motherhood, to connect over anxiety, depression, to connect over celebrate positive things, but also help push women forward in building healthy habits. And so we're going to be encouraging mini challenges with drawings at the end of them. So we're going to do a walk challenge. We're going to do a healthy eating challenge. We're going to do things like that. But it will also have an external site of content that have helpful meal planning documents, things like that, but also will facilitate a speaker coming in and talking through Zoom. So that way it's easy, accessible for moms who are busy and can't always get out, but talk about either a health topic or a parenting topic. And then you'll have access to that work. Either the live Zoom, or I'm going to catalog it for information for later. So that's the next big steps, is kind of rolling out some of these subscription services to help women with some of the hardest moments of motherhood, which I know because I've experienced.
When do you find time to work? Like, how do you carve that out for yourself?
That's a fantastic question. It comes and goes. Some weeks
I don't really have the answer there either. I was like, what day of the week is it?
I was going to say summer is hard because everybody's home. So my beautiful niece is able to come over and helps me a couple days a week. Other than that, during the school year, I have 4 of my kiddos in school or preschool Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So I really try and get a bulk of work done during those times. Other than that, it's after bedtime, or I'm an early morning person. So I'll get up early and do things and people are like, oh, that's exhausting. And I don't disagree with that. It can be exhausting. But when you are fulfilling your passion and your purpose, it doesn't feel exhausting because I'm doing things that I love and enjoy doing. So it's worth, working a little bit later into the night or getting up a little bit earlier, because in this season of life, my children are absolutely 100% important, but also this purpose of serving women is 100% important. And it offsets that value of that time because I'm doing what I know I've been called to do.
Yeah, it's that stuff that, fills your cup. And I know for me, I'd feel more exhausted without my work and the things that I'm passionate about than I would with it, or than I do with it. I mean, I maintain pretty great energy throughout the day because I get to work in pockets throughout like my whole day, and I love what I do. So, what could be better than that? But it is hard. And I know, with moms, it's really hard for us to build that time in to really honor the things that we want to accomplish and everything else. So I'm glad that you have help with your niece, even if it's probably not as much as you would like. And, here's to the summer working out as well as it possibly can for all of us. I know my kids are getting a little bit older, and I used to have help come in during the summers, but now it's like, well, they can kind of watch each other, but that's not always the best either.
Brothers.
It's always
there's a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah. And where can people find more of you if they want to to learn from you or, be able to join this group that you're creating or anything else that's going on?
Absolutely. So one of the best ways to find me is my website, www.embrace.live.thrive.com. There, my podcast is up there and updates. My blog is up there. It keeps you updated of any events that I have currently going on, whether it's a free workshop or it's going to be a part of the subscription service. So that is a great place to have all things Embrace, Live, Thrive. But you can also just follow me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, just the handle at Embrace, Live, Thrive. And I try to post pretty consistently in encouraging things, real life mom moments.
Oh, yeah.
And just helpful tips to kind of support you in, again, where I know some of the hardest moments of life are.
That's so needed and so appreciated. And I hope that the right moms will find this episode and find you, more importantly,
Absolutely.
so that you can give them that support that I know you're so good at giving. But thank you so much for being here today, Sarah. I really appreciate everything you shared. Really great conversation. And is there anything that you want to add as we finish up here?
I want to just really encourage women that if you're struggling in an area, ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for help. And if you're not there with your spouse, start with a friend. If you're not there with that, maybe just start saying out loud that I could really use some help. And verbalizing it and looking for it can really start presenting opportunities if you're looking to help get some of the help that you need.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa. This has been fun.
All right. And thanks for listening, everyone. Take care. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.